I found the first clue on a Tuesday morning, a text notification that appeared on James's phone while we were having breakfast. Just a glimpse, just enough to see a name I didn't recognize and the start of a message James deleted too quickly. But it was enough. Most wives might have let it go. Most wives would have trusted their husband. Most wives would have believed James when James said it was nothing, just a coworker about a work project. But I've never been most wives. My name is Nicole, and my husband James spent almost 2 years trying to hide an affair from me. James created a whole second life. James had secret meetings, hidden messages, a burner phone, strategic lies that James believed were foolproof. But James didn't count on one thing: my intuition. This is the story of how I uncovered the affair James tried so desperately to hide. This is what I found, and this is what happened when James realized I knew the truth. It all started with that one text message. James and I had been married for 7 years. Before that, we dated for 3 years. So basically, James had been my entire adult life. We met in college, became friends, fell in love, got engaged at 24, got married at 25, built a life together. On paper, we had the perfect marriage. We had a beautiful house, we had stable careers. I'm a marketing director, James is a financial analyst. We had vacations planned, we talked about kids, we had date nights, we had anniversary celebrations. James was attentive. James would bring me coffee in the morning, James would text me during the day, James would come home and ask about my day. James seemed completely present. I thought James loved me. I thought we were solid. I was so wrong. The first real sign was small. James started taking his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. James had never done that before. Then James's schedule changed. James started saying he had work meetings that lasted hours, late meetings, meetings on weekends sometimes, meetings that James never wanted to talk about in detail. I asked James about the meetings. James would give vague answers. Just budget stuff, babe. You wouldn't be interested. James would kiss my forehead and change the subject. Then there was the cologne. James started wearing a cologne James never wore before. I asked James about it. James said a coworker had recommended it. Simple answer, but James had never cared about cologne recommendations before. Then there were the credit card charges. Charges at restaurants I'd never heard of. Charges James couldn't quite explain. Must have been a client lunch, James would say. But James never remembered those lunches when I asked for details. Small things, all deniable, all explainable. But together, they painted a picture. I mentioned it to my sister Jennifer. Jennifer said I was being paranoid. Jennifer said marriages get comfortable and boring sometimes. Jennifer said I was creating problems that didn't exist. But my gut was screaming. I called my best friend Tasha. Tasha is the person who knows me best. I told Tasha what I'd noticed. I listed out the inconsistencies, the phone protection, the vague meetings, the mysterious charges, the unexplained cologne. Tasha listened and then said something that validated everything I was feeling. Something's wrong. I don't know what, but something's wrong. I decided I needed to know the truth, not to accuse James yet, but to know if my gut was right. I started small. I paid more attention to James's routine. I noticed James would say he was going to work, but James would come home later than usual with no reasonable explanation. I noticed James's phone notifications. James would see a message and immediately dismiss it without reading it in front of me. I created a fake social media account, not to spy on James directly, but to see if I could find any clues about where James was spending time. And that's when I found the first real evidence. A photo posted by someone I didn't recognize, a woman named Rachel. And in the background of the photo, at a restaurant I'd never been to with James, was my husband. James was at that restaurant at a time James said James was at work, and James wasn't alone. There was a woman next to James, a woman with her hand on James's arm, a woman looking at James the way I used to look at James. Once I found that first photo, everything else became clear. I started looking at James's credit card statements. I requested copies of the ones I could access, and there it was, a pattern. Restaurants on Thursday evenings, hotel charges, charges at stores I'd never been to with James, all on days James claimed to be working late, all consistently. I looked at James's calendar, the one shared with me for work purposes. I started cross-referencing James's meetings with the days James had made charges. Thursday evenings. Every single Thursday evening for almost 2 years, there was a pattern. I started looking at James's location history. James had a family sharing location app turned on. I checked James's movements on those Thursday evenings. James would leave work, go to restaurants in a part of town I'd never been to with James, stay for hours, then come home late. I looked up the woman in the photo, Rachel Chen. Younger than me, worked at a different financial firm. Photos of Rachel on social media showed her at those same restaurants, photos from months before. I realized James hadn't just had a one-time slip-up. James had been having a sustained affair for nearly 2 years. 2 years of Thursday evening meetings, 2 years of lies, 2 years of strategic deception. And the most infuriating part? James thought James was being so careful. James thought James was covering the tracks perfectly. But James had underestimated me. I sat with the evidence for a week. I didn't confront James immediately. I needed to be sure. I needed to have all the facts. I needed to understand the full scope of what James had done. Because I wasn't going to accuse James and have James gaslight me or deny it. I was going to walk into that confrontation with evidence James couldn't deny. I gathered everything. Photographs, credit card statements, location history, screenshots of Rachel's social media, the pattern of James's meetings, all of it. I made copies. I documented everything. I consulted with a divorce attorney quietly, not because I decided to divorce yet, but because I needed to understand my options and my rights. And then I was ready. I was ready to confront my husband with the truth that James had been desperately trying to hide from me. I was ready to watch James's carefully constructed lies crumble. I was ready to hear James admit what James thought James had successfully hidden. I was ready to take back my power. That Friday evening, when James came home from work, from his real work, not his Thursday evening meetings, I was sitting in our living room with all the evidence spread out on the coffee table. James walked in happy, unsuspecting, completely unaware that his secret life was about to be completely exposed. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't perform emotion. I simply pointed to the evidence on the table. "Sit down, James," I said calmly. "We need to talk about Rachel." James's face went white. James literally went pale. James sat down slowly, eyes moving from the photographs to the credit card statements to my face. "What is this?" James asked. But James already knew. "This is you," I said quietly, "having an affair. This is you at restaurants with Rachel. This is you at hotels with Rachel. This is you lying to me for almost 2 years." James tried to deny it at first. James said the photos could be misleading. James said the charges were work-related. James said I was being crazy and paranoid. But I had everything. I didn't get angry. I didn't raise my voice. I just calmly presented each piece of evidence. Each restaurant, each hotel, each Thursday evening, each lie. "Do you want to explain yourself?" I said, "or should I keep going?" And that's when James broke. That's when James realized that the game was up, that James couldn't lie his way out of this, that I knew everything. James started crying. James said he was sorry. James said it was a mistake. James said it meant nothing. But I didn't care about James's tears. I'd seen James cry before. James cried at movies. I wasn't interested in James's performance. "How long?" I asked.
20 months, James admitted quietly. And how many times? James didn't answer. How many times, James? I don't know, James whispered. A lot. Thursday nights, sometimes more. I stood up. I looked at my husband, the man I'd given 7 years to, the man I'd trusted completely, and I felt something shift inside me. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt clear. I felt powerful. I felt like I'd just won something huge by simply knowing the truth.
Over the next hour, James confessed everything. Not because James wanted to be honest, but because James realized the truth was already exposed and there was no point lying anymore. James met Rachel at work. Rachel flirted with James. James was flattered. James felt unappreciated in our marriage, or at least that's what James told himself. James started small, innocent lunches that turned into something more. Thursday evenings became work meetings that were actually hotel rooms. James bought a burner phone to text Rachel. James created an entire parallel life. James said Rachel didn't know James was married at first. Then Rachel found out. Then Rachel didn't care. Rachel actually enjoyed being the secret. Rachel sent James photos. Rachel encouraged James to keep lying to me. For 20 months, James led a double life. James would come home and act like everything was normal. James would kiss me. James would tell me James loved me. James would make plans for our future while actively betraying me. And James thought James was so clever. James thought James had covered all the tracks. James thought I would never find out. But my intuition knew, my gut knew, and when I finally paid attention to what my gut was telling me, everything came into focus. James asked for forgiveness. James said James was sorry. James said James didn't know what James was thinking. But I was done listening to James's words. Words had become meaningless. James had proven that James's words meant nothing. I told James to get out. I told James to go stay somewhere else that night. James tried to argue. I didn't listen. I packed James a bag, and I told James that we would be talking to lawyers next week. And James finally understood. I wasn't broken. I was done. The days after I confronted James were strange. I thought I would feel destroyed. I thought I would fall apart. But I didn't. I felt relieved. The confusion was over. The lies were exposed. The truth was known. And somehow, knowing the truth, even though the truth was painful, was better than living in confusion. My sister Jennifer came over. Jennifer cried. Jennifer said she should have believed me. Jennifer said she was sorry for doubting me. I told Jennifer to stop apologizing. Jennifer had been a good sister. Jennifer just hadn't known. Tasha brought wine and her fierce protective energy. Tasha helped me process everything. Tasha validated every single thing I was feeling. Tasha made me laugh for the first time since the confrontation. I started therapy. My therapist helped me understand that what had happened wasn't my fault. My therapist helped me see that I hadn't done anything to deserve James's betrayal. My therapist helped me rebuild my sense of self. I talked to a divorce lawyer. I filed for a divorce. The process was painful but necessary. And James tried to minimize what James had done. James tried to get Rachel to disappear and act like it was just a mistake. Rachel, unsurprisingly, dropped James the moment things got difficult. Turns out, the affair was more about the excitement of secrecy than any genuine connection. Once James had to face real consequences, Rachel moved on to someone else. James ended up moving into an apartment. James called me several times asking if we could work things out. James said James missed me. James said James would go to couples therapy. But I was done. The trust was gone, the respect was gone, and I was finally respecting myself enough to not accept anything less than honesty and faithfulness. I started rebuilding my life, alone, by myself, for myself. People ask me if I regret what happened, if I wish I'd never found out about the affair. And my answer is absolutely not. Finding out about James's affair was the best thing that ever happened to me, not because the betrayal was good, but because the truth was necessary. I spent 7 years with someone who was lying to me. I thought I knew James. I thought James and I had something real. But James was building a fake life while I was building what I thought was our real one. The discovery forced me to stop ignoring my intuition. My gut was screaming at me for months, and I almost talked myself into believing the lies instead of listening to myself. Here's what I learned. If something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. If your gut is screaming, listen. If the story doesn't add up, there's probably a reason. I learned that trusting yourself is more important than trusting someone else. I learned that my intuition knows things before my logical brain catches up. I learned that people who love you don't lie to you for 2 years. People who respect you don't create secret lives. People who value you don't put you in a position where you have to investigate them like a detective. I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I learned that betrayal doesn't break you if you don't let it. I learned that there's power in knowing the truth, even when the truth is painful. And I learned that the man who tried so hard to hide his affair from me, he did me a favor. He revealed himself. He showed me who he actually was, and he freed me from a marriage to someone I thought I knew but didn't. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. I'm rebuilding my life on my own terms. I'm learning who I am when I'm not defined by being someone's wife. I'm learning to trust myself completely. And I'm doing fine. More than fine. I'm thriving. James tried to hide his affair from me. James tried to build a secret life right under my nose. James tried to gaslight me into doubting my own intuition. But James underestimated me. James didn't count on me paying attention. James didn't believe I would investigate. James thought I would be too busy or too in love to notice. And that was James's mistake. So if you're reading this, and if you're feeling that something is wrong in your relationship, listen to that feeling. Don't gaslight yourself. Don't let someone convince you that you're being paranoid. Don't ignore your intuition because it's easier to believe the lie. The truth is worth knowing, and you're strong enough to handle it. My husband tried to hide his affair from me, but I'm the one who found the truth, and the truth set me free. This is my story, and this is my victory.